Welcome again to our Zoom and FB participants to our webinar titled Fluid Balance Matters. I am Dr. Sarah Christine Mendoza again for the moderator for today. Starting this year, our webinar series will be called IPLA's Coffee and Conversations. We hope to fill your morning with gems to power up your Saturday morning. So grab a cup of coffee and just relax. Before we start our webinar, let us view this video from the Medical City Institute of Pediatrics. This webinar is brought to you by the Institute of Pediatrics Learning Academy or IPLA. Watch out for this logo for our future webinars. Now I have my coffee and I am ready for our conversation. It is a great privilege to be given the task to introduce our main resource speaker for today. She finished her medical degree in the University of the Philippines, Manila, and completed both her pediatric residency and fellowship training in gastroenterology, hepatology, and nutrition at the Department of Pediatrics, UP-PGH. Currently, she is an associate professor too at the University of the Philippines, Manila College of Medicine, and also serve as the training officer for the fellowship program for pediatric gastroenterology, hepatology, and nutrition at the Department of Pediatrics in the same institution. Her expertise is rooted deeply in issues of proper nutrition. She is also a mother of 3 active children. To give us an enlightening lecture on the importance of fluids among active children, we will be joined by Dr. Novette Regina Legunsad. Hi, Dr. Novette. Good morning. Hope you have a
Good morning.
coffee, as in brew in coffee.
Good morning, Dr. Sarah. Thank you for that kind introduction. Now it's my turn to introduce you, our moderator, Dr. Sarah Christine Mendoza, took her medical degree at the University of Perpetual Health System, Binyan, Laguna. She took her pediatric residency here at the Medical City. She's also a consultant staff here at the Medical City Institute of Pediatrics. She's the current secretary of the Philippine Ambulatory Pediatrics Association and also the guest faculty at the Ateneo School of Medicine and Public Health. Let us now again welcome our moderator, Dr. Sarah.
Hi, Dr. Nivette. Good morning
Good
again,
morning. Good
and
morning.
welcome to our first Coffee and Conversations webinar. As you
Oo
can
nga.
see, I have my coffee here beside me, no? Then this is how I usually start my everyday routine, powering up with my favorite coffee. What about you, Dr. Nivette? Are you also
Yes,
a coffee lover?
yes, of course. All of us are coffee lovers naman, no? So also I have my coffee here with me. I prefer naman my coffee with milk and a slice of bread. And usually that's how I start my day.
Okay, I think mga Filipinos talaga, no? That's
Yes,
one of our
oo.
favorite drinks, ano? Early in the morning. So as they say, a cup of coffee shared with a friend is happiness tasted and time well spent. So now let's get to the heart of the matter, Dr. Navette. But before we start, when it comes to a healthy lifestyle for our children, is there anything our parents need to remember?
Yes, Dr. Sarah. Healthy lifestyle is as easy as remembering the numbers 5, 2, 1, and 0. That is enjoying 5 or more servings of vegetables and fruits every day, power down on technology by no more than 2 hours of screen time a day, playing actively at least 1 hour each day, and lastly, by choosing healthy through zero sugary beverages. You can see here the emphasis on more water and milk.
Thanks, Dr. Navette. That makes it easier to remember. I think the magic number here is 5210 or 5210.
Yes.
Like 5 fruits and vegetables, no? 2 hours of screen time, 1 hour of actively playing, and zero sugar. It's like 5210. Now, easy to remember. We should not forget that children must move and be active, but should also be hydrated.
Agree. And in really hot days, no, they lose much fluids, and we need to know what to do.
Okay, so for today's webinar, what all will you be discussing, Dr. Novette?
So we will discuss 3 important concepts now. First, we will describe the fluid losses in the different activities of children. Second, we will discuss how to achieve fluid balance during the different activities. And third, we will discuss the importance of your pre-participation assessment for children engaged in sports. So this figure just shows that physical activity is encouraged in children because of its many health benefits. Aside from the obvious benefits like muscular fitness, cardiometabolic health, heart and lung health, bone strength, and promoting healthy weight, did you know that physical activity improves attention and memory and reduces risk of depression? Lastly, long-lasting benefits is that it reduces risk of several chronic diseases such as your type 2 diabetes and your obesity. So a study by a group of Moyes on primary school children aged 10 to 12 years showed that participation in sports appeared to be significantly associated with a more favorable health-related quality of life. But we know that during physical activity, we burn calories for energy and lose water through sweat. And although it is reported that in prepubertal boys, that they have reduced sweating rate, such as your 455 ml per meter square per hour, compared to adults na 815, one might expect na the magnitude of dehydration and fluid replacement requirements would be lower in your prepubertal subjects. But this does not appear to be the case. Based on the study by Brown and colleagues, the magnitude of dehydration was found to be similar in children and in adults, since this rate is relative to the body mass.
As we heard from your lecture, Dr. Novette, no, physical activity plays a big role in the quality of life of our children. And there are a lot of healthy benefits, no, of physical activity, and one of them is to reduce the risk of depression. Okay, so there is indeed water loss during physical activity. With this being said, Dr. Novette, let us ask our audience, how much fluids in ml do you think children lose in physical activity? You may type in your answers in the chat box. Let me see kung ano yung sagot ng ating participants. Gaano ba kadami, no? Yung
What do you think, Dr. Sarah?
around 5
Yes,
ml ba?
5 ml.
Tama
Parang
ba?
meron na yata yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
oo.
Ay, okay. Coming from Mixie, she said it's 1 liter. No.
Ang dami, no? 1 liter. Oo.
Any other guess from our participants? How much do you think, no, in ml do our children lose during physical activities or doing sports? Ako, I said 500 ml. No, Mixie said it's 1 liter. Okay.
Well,
So,
let me answer that question, no?
ano ba talaga yung fluid loss?
Yes,
Mga
oo.
bata kapag may activity sila.
Oo. So the answer is actually, it depends on many factors, di ba? Aside from the age and gender, the previous slide I showed, there are individual factors such as yung genetics, level of acclimatization, level of fitness, and also yung kind of activity, no? Kung sobrang nakakapawis ba tong sports na to, and the environment or external conditions like the humidity, temperature, and clothing. So itong figure na to, it shows the fluid dynamics during physical activity. The more physically active a person is, there is more fluid loss through sweat, thus tipping the balance to the right, leading to a state of dehydration, especially if there is failure of fluid intake to match water loss from sweat. So pre-exercise dehydration also adds to the risk of fluid imbalance during training and competition. It has been shown by studies that dehydration of more than 1% of your body mass may impair performance in distance events. So ad libitum intake driven by thirst during exercise will actually replete the majority of fluid losses. But it is important to note that the choice of replacement fluid may be based on the preference of the child. So to answer that question, this table actually outlines the estimated fluid loss through sweating, the amount of fluid expected to be replaced by voluntary drinking, and the resulting negative balance in the child athletes of different weights during a 1-hour vigorous activity. This sweat loss estimate is based on the rate of 500 ml per meter square per hour. So for example, we have a 40 kilogram child. In an hour, actually, 650 yung estimated sweat loss niya. No? Yung half the size of that, that would be 450 pag 1 hour siya. So medyo marami talaga. No? And then these last two columns naman explains the volume not replaced by voluntary drinking. So yung 75% nga is replaced by your thirst, so 25% is not replaced. And then the critical value for dehydration, which is your 1% fluid loss of the body mass. Noakes and his colleagues contended that emphasis of drinking according to thirst alone during sports may be sufficient to prevent deterioration in performance or heat injury. So attempts to achieve full fluid replacement is not only necessary but also add to the weight load of the exercise and increase risk of yung mga electrolyte disturbance such as your hyponatremia. Okay? So the outcome of this analysis provided in this table suggests this argument holds true also in children that even with high levels of sweat loss or limitations of voluntary drinking occur, that is your ad libitum drinking, can be expected to still prevent dehydration in child athletes with a considerable safety margin. Wilk and colleagues also have studied on children's aerobic capacity, performance, impaired by hypohydration or dehydration in physically active boys involved in cycling at 2-hour intermittent cycling protocol. They found that the mean time to exhaustion was 2 minutes earlier at 2% dehydration compared when the boys had normal hydration. For team sports naman, basketball seems to be the sports modality in which majority of research has been focusing in youth at population. But the results here are still inconsistent. An early study by Hoffman and colleagues found no difference in the shooting performance, anaerobic power, vertical jumping. But on the other hand, a study by Doherty and company showed that 2% dehydration before a simulated game impaired the basketball shooting, sprinting, and lateral movements in younger boys. From the sports or athletic angle, the effect of dehydration on cognitive function in the pediatric population has not been documented as extensively as in adults. Barr and David and colleagues observed children who were divided into normal hydration or a dehydrated group. So in the morning, similar pa yung cognitive tasks nila. But at noon, the hydrated children perform better in terms of short-term memory and verbal analogy. Another 2 studies indicated the same visual attention tasks and were improved in children once they drank water and their thirst levels were decreased.
I can see, Dr. Navet, that dehydration can really impact children's performance. So it's really important to keep energetic children, especially those who are actively involved in competitive physical activities like what you have mentioned, basketball, soccer, volleyball, and the like, to be hydrated. Okay. So at this point also, I would like to shout out some of our colleagues in the medical city, no? Dr. Hassan, Dr. Ganao, Dr. Bayhon, thank you very much po, and Dr. Valencia and Dr. Season. Okay. Dr. Rina Reyes also is watching us. Thank you, ma'am. So, Dr. Navet, are there any danger signs of dehydration that require immediate attention?
Yes, there are danger signs that we should be aware of. These are the following: no? Dry lips or sticky mouth, less urination or dark-colored urine, being sleepy and irritable, lightheaded with a headache, flushed skin, cramps, and thirst. If we are not quick to address these signs of dehydration, it may lead to heat exhaustion or heat stroke. Heat exhaustion can present with dizziness, headache, nausea, weakness, unsteady gait, muscle cramps, and fatigue. Heat stroke's primary symptoms include change in mental status, such as confusion, delirium, combativeness, seizures, loss of consciousness, and a core body temperature of above 40 degrees Celsius. Heat stroke is much more serious now than heat exhaustion, and it can cause shock, organ failure, or brain damage. In extreme cases, heat stroke can kill you. Thus, to reap all the benefits of physical activity in children, it is very important to play effectively and safely by being responsive to the early signs of dehydration.
So parents and teachers, please take note of what Dr. Navet had mentioned, no? Especially regarding the heat-related illnesses, the difference between heat exhaustion and heat stroke. And as you said, Doctora, no, mas serious yung heat stroke, no? Now
Yes,
that some children do get dehydrated when playing and doing sports, let me ask our audience again. What do you think should children drink to hydrate? You may key in your answers in the chat box. While we are waiting for the answers coming from the audience, Dr. Novette, no? You
Yes.
are a mother also, and I know that you are aware of the different forms of flavored and colorful drinks available in
Mm-mm.
the market, no? Which
Yes.
commonly referred to as energy drinks now.
Oo.
These are the alternatives given to our children.
Yes. Oo.
Yeah, let me check some, ano? Are there any?
Energy drinks, sports drinks, mga electrolyte containing drinks. So marami yan in the commercially available. No?
Oo nga, lalo na ngayon, ano? When I was young, kasi parang, alam ko lang yata dati was Yakult. Don't have the other flavored drinks pa available in the market today, but now
Oo.
there are a lot. And children
Yeah.
really love them, no? But we have to
Oo.
check, no? Kung tama ba ito. So again, Dr. Novette, what is the ideal fluid to give our children during physical activities?
Okay. Well, it's none other than water. So water is a great choice for kids because it's super healthy with 0 calories and no added sugar. It's good for the body and helps keep the joints and the teeth and the blood healthy. It also helps the child concentrate and focus. So water lang no, pwede na ipabaon natin sa ating mga patients, ating children when engaged in strenuous activities. But how much water do we need to offer in a day? So this is a good illustration for that now. Based on age, 6 to 12 months, it's 4 to 8 ounces a day. 12 to 24 months, it's 8 to 32 ounces a day. For 2 to 5 years, it's 8 to 40 ounces a day. And when do you offer it? You offer it any time of the day, even with a snack, before and during after exercising or playing sports, and also when it's very hot outside, no, especially nowadays, we should allow our kids to drink water, no, or baon sila nung tumbler nila, okay? Therefore, because of the expected fluid loss through physical activity, children taking part in sports should drink water, no? Emphasis lang, no, before, during, and after exercising or playing sports. But if vigorous exercise extends beyond 1 hour in a day, or if the child is sweating a lot, di ba may mga ganun, batang mas pawisin, electrolyte supplemented beverages may be necessary. So this slide just shows a rough estimate of the amount of fluid needed during vigorous activity. But we don't really need to measure it, no? The amount may be guided by the child or adolescents as long as awake, no, alert and awakened child, no. We just make sure that we provide them with enough water to sustain them during the vigorous activity. So as discussed in the previous slides for pediatric sports, all youth athletes should be well hydrated and well nourished prior to practice, training, and competition. Ample water should be readily available. Regular fluid intake should be a priority during activities. And for selected athletes who sweat excessively, water and sodium losses are often inevitable. So you may add salt and to the diet and drinks, especially when training and competing. So although is a possibility of being dehydrated during sports now, we know that there are numerous positive physical, social, psychological benefits of engaging our children, specifically the youth in sports. But nonetheless, there are negative effects also such as injuries, added expense, and the psychological stress to the adolescent because of the demands that it entails.
I understand that doing sports is more demand on the child physically. No. Yes, I would like also to inform our participants. Now you can type in your questions or comments in the Q&A box. Okay. Is there a procedure, Dr. Novette, that parents should do to prepare children for sports? Did you notice that when the face-to-face classes resumed, there are a lot of children being brought to the clinic, no? In my sa clinic ko, not because they are sick, but because they are procuring or requesting for a medical clearance and the pre-participation assessment prior to doing sport or being in the school. So, Dr. Navet, how about those children who get sick, let's say from COVID? Are there any guidelines on when they can resume sports activities?
Yes, Dr. Sarah, there are guidelines for this. No? This is very important for us to know. So the Association of European Pediatric Cardiology actually recommends that a cardiovascular screening should be performed on athletes when they start their competitive activity. So this is even without COVID, no? Yung mga ating mga athletes, they actually need pre-participation evaluation. So currently, you have to do your history, clinical assessment, ECG, conventional to the echo, which are cornerstones in your pre-participation athletic evaluation. So also there's another guideline by the American Academy of Family Physicians and other specialty societies. They recently made a pre-participation evaluation guidelines, and this guideline states that a comprehensive pre-participation evaluation should be performed as part of an athlete's routine preventive medical care. So this is performed every 2 to 3 years with annual focus history updates in the intervening years. Personal and family history should be reviewed for risk factors of your sudden cardiac death. Musculoskeletal evaluation should be primarily focused on previous injuries and current symptoms. And also ito important nowadays, screening for anxiety or depression symptoms should be included. Regarding the COVID naman, infection among our athletes, this is an algorithm of the guidelines on return to play after COVID-19 infection, which answers the question on the safety of participation in school sports during the pandemic, as well as the need to clear athletes to return to play. So for detailed guidance, please refer to the American Association of Pediatrics COVID-19 Interim Guidance, Return to Sports and Physical Activity. So the algorithm is based on severity of the symptoms, if asymptomatic or mild, moderate symptoms, or with severe symptoms. So just a blow up, no? For those with asymptomatic or mild infection, so meaning less than 4 days of fever, temperature of more than 38 degrees Celsius, with less than a week of myalgia, chills, and lethargy, at least a phone or telemedicine assessment by a primary care physician may be done, and advice will be on the duration of quarantine and screening evaluation. It is also not advisable at this time to exercise during quarantine. So that should be emphasized. For those with moderate symptoms, so that is the fever is more than or equal to 4 days, with more than a week of myalgia, chills, lethargy, but non-ICU hospitalization stay, an in-person evaluation by a doctor is recommended. And aside from screening, evaluation, a complete physical examination and echocardiogram is needed. And for severe symptoms that need hospitalization or ICU stay, actually avoidance of exercise for 3 to 6 months with cardio clearance before resuming training is needed. Oh, sorry. So this box is part of the algorithm now, which shows the additional guidance on returning to play for those who have no symptoms or those with mild symptoms, but with normal evaluation. So the child should have completed quarantine and minimum symptom-free interval has passed. The child should be able to perform all activities of daily living, and there are no concerning signs and symptoms. The pace of the return to activity should also be monitored according to the child's tolerance for those less than 12 years of age, and for those older than 12, a gradual return to physical activity should be done over a 7-day minimum period. But it is important to note that if they develop any signs and symptoms that is out of proportion of the upper respiratory infection, they can pause and return. They can pause their return to play. So this box B shows how athletes with mild to moderate symptoms return gradually to play, which is divided into 7 stages. So in stage 1, on days 1 to 2, 15 minutes only or less of only light activity. Stage 2, on day 3, 30 minutes of simple movement activities. Stage 3 on day 4, 45 minutes of progression to more complex training. Stage 4 on days 5 and 6, 60 minutes of normal training activity. And stage 5 on day 7, that is when the child can return to full activity. So this can actually guide us, no, para hindi mabigla yung ating child athlete. In the medical city, we also offer that pre-participation evaluation package for young athletes. If you are interested, flashed here is the contact details for inquiries and allow us to be your partner in caring for your children and patients. So this package is for children 6 to 18 years of age and incorporates the components that have been identified in published literature by experts. No? We have our pediatric cardiologist who can screen for red flags for risk for sudden cardiac death. We have our orthopedic doctors who can focus on musculoskeletal health of the child. We have pediatricians and adolescent experts who can screen mental health concerns such as anxiety and depression. And soon the package will include pulmonary clearance, including spirometry for children with previous COVID-19 infection. So this package includes basic diagnostic procedures and a synthesis of the evaluation from the assessments. So that's I think my last slide, no? So to summarize, I have described the fluid losses and the different activities of children. I have discussed how to achieve fluid balance during the different activities of children. I have also discussed the importance of the pre-participation assessment for children engaged in sports. So now for some take-home message, let us remember that physical activity is important for our children's quality of life. The risk of fluid loss during different activities in children should be recognized, and water is an important component in maintaining fluid balance, and your pre-participation assessment can help identify and mitigate other risks in children engaged in sports. Now, let us do our part in working together in helping our children attain good health, related quality of life through physical activity, good hydration, and safe participation in sports.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Novette. What a great learning experience, no? Very important talaga yung pre-participation assessment, no? And am I right, Dr. Novette, that the comprehensive pre-participation evaluation should be done every 2 to 3 years?
Yes, every 2 to 3 years, and yearly there's an intervening interview on the history of what happened during those intervening years.
Okay. Lalo na ngayon, no? Pre-pandemic, no?
Yes,
Nagkaroon, no?
that's correct.
Some kids talaga or children already have contracted the COVID-19 infection. Okay. I'm sure our participants have some questions for you, Dr. Novette. So let us now open the virtual floor for the Q&A segment. You may type your questions in the chat box. No? Okay, let me see if there are some questions. But before that, no. Recently we've heard a lot of stories regarding casualties, no, in school while they are doing physical activities. Kailangan ba talaga, Dr. Novette, to do the pre-participation assessment or medical clearance prior to engaging in vigorous physical activities in school?
Yes, I think it is a mandatory to have our children engage in your pre-participation evaluation, especially in sports that is at a professional, amateur athlete, especially with intense activities, no? Like for example, basketball, track and field, volleyball, yung talagang nakakapawis, no? And even if it's not that vigorous also, no? Kapag competitive, may mga psychological stress also. So it's important for us to screen our children, no? Like me, I have children engaged in sports. So At one point, I had them examined also by our cardiologist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, me too. My son. Sabi ko
Oo.
kay son ko, sabi niya, Mommy, I need a medical clearance. Tapos, can I do it? And then sabi daw ng kanyang professor, no, not your mom. It should be someone else.
Oo.
You should
Siyempre, approve natin.
you should undergo that pre-participation assessment, no?
Yes,
Okay.
oo.
Okay, we have one question coming from Dr. Rina Valencia, no? She's also one of the consultants here in the medical city. She said, Dr. Renevet, you mentioned about the 5210 rule or the 5210 rule and zero
Mm-mm.
sugar intake. Can you
Oo.
comment on the use of artificial sweeteners and drinks such as Coke or Coke Zero
Oo.
and Coke Light? Thank
Yes, oo. Alam naman natin na carbonated beverages, even if with zero calories, these are not healthy drinks for our children and should not be used to replace our fluid loss. First of all, it is very, very high in sugar. No? So, of course, beverage that is high in sugar can eventually cause illnesses, no? Yung pag naging nasanay sila, they can cause yung mga diabetes eventually. And also, if you take high amounts of sugar, it can also cause yung mga osmotic diarrhea. So, it should not be encouraged in our patients and in our children. So, water is actually more than enough. Um, I hope that answered that question. Thank you, Dr. Arena.
Okay, so minsan kasi it's misleading, ano, when we
Oo.
see the zero, the Coke Light, the
Oo.
zero, the light, no? So akala natin they are healthy na.
Oo.
Okay, let me check if there are other questions. I'm encouraging our participants, if you have questions, both in Zoom and FB, you can type in your questions in the chat box for Zoom. And then we'll see and we'll ask Dr. Novent. Okay. I hope everyone also had their coffee this morning. Nag-coffee na po ba kayo? Just like us, no? And thank you once again for joining us this Saturday morning. Okay, let me just check. I think there's one in the chat box. Okay. Are there any more questions coming from our participants?
So I think there's a question of
Yes, Dr. Novet.
okay.
Might be questions directed to you.
Okay. So there's a question here, no, in our chat box, no. Personal message. So, which is better to drink during sports? The commercially available sports drinks, ORS, or just plain water? No. So siguro this question is about the different types of your electrolyte drinks. Di ba marami yan eh. Meron tayo yung mga sports beverages, energy drinks, may mga tablets din containing electrolytes, coconut water, mga pediatric electrolyte beverages, even milk or fruit juices, no. So actually, based on the lecture that I delivered, no, the most the healthiest of them is your water, no, just water. But of course, if there is strenuous activity, like for example, it involves mga 60 to 90 minutes na sobrang pawis na pawis, since our sweat contains electrolytes and sodium, we need to replace it. So we can replace it with any beverage, no? Although it should be a once in a while thing, no? You should not drink it all the time. Kasi because this like sports drink, they contain lots of sugar, and of course, yung sugar can cause yung mga high sugar in the child, eventually leading to illness, and also it can cause yung mga diarrhea. So pwedeng paminsan-minsan pero mixed with water. So minsan ang question naman is, paano kung sobrang pawis tas water? We all know that these electrolytes or yung minerals is also obtained from our diet. So we have that actually in us already. So water will be sufficient. Ano pa yung isang drink na yung buko juice, no? Yun, maganda yung buko juice kasi it's a natural drink that contains electrolyte, and it also has a unique taste, medyo sweet ng konti, pero low lang yung sugar niya. And it is high also in sodium and potassium also. So it can be used as a replacement fluid.
Okay. Even buko juice, Dr. Novet, no?
Oo, buko juice. Masarap yun pag malamig.
Sa mga di ba, we have stalls na in the malls, no? Buko juice turned into like a shake, no?
Oo.
Smoothie.
It's also healthy. Oo, kasi siya, natural lang siya. And walang mga artificial flavors or beverages. Yan din yung parang negative factor dun sa mga commercially available. Kasi they have artificial colorings. So, ayaw naman natin ng ganun for our children.
And we know naman, children, they love different colors, no?
Oo. Yes.
Yeah, associate nila yan sa mga iniinom nila. Okay. Dr. Novet, another question coming from FB from Dr. Catherine De Leon, no? What are important things to look for when choosing electrolyte-containing drinks for our kids if we decide to give them these drinks?
Pardon, can you again?
What are the important things to look for when choosing electrolyte-containing drinks for our kids?
Okay. So siguro yung mga when you choose one, yung one that does not contain mga artificial flavors, artificial colorings, yun. And then the sugar content also, it should be as much as possible low sana. Oo.
Okay, thank you. Wow. Questions are coming in now, Dr. Novet, no?
Thank you for the questions.
From an anonymous participant, no? Thoughts on protein shakes, protein supplements for adolescents or teenager, both athletes and non-athletes?
Okay, yung mga protein shakes actually, okay naman siya once in a while, but it should also be guided by their physician, no? Kasi, children we have to take care also of the kidneys of the children. No? Sometimes we take too much protein and our kidneys are overloaded with it. So at this age, they should be guided or obtain clearance from their primary physician when they use this. Pero kung halimbawa, for example, a protein-containing drink like a glass of milk, that's okay. Pero yung mga supplements, that needs the clearance of doctors.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Novet. Yes, well, I would like also to read the comments coming from Dr. Baihon, no?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the comments.
Yeah, actually, for high impact sports, one bottle of your sports beverage, not the energy drink, please take note of that, is more than enough to power you in the next 4 hours. It is taken at least 1 hour before the said high impact activity. Thereafter, the means of hydrating will only be purely water or the acceptable electrolyte containing solutions, or ORS. The so-called energy drinks are a no-no. Remember that, as it contains high loads of caffeine and can trigger arrhythmia, especially in the non-coffee drinker athletes. No, yes, I agree with Dr. Baihon.
Thank you, Dr. Baihon.
He said also a sports drink should be differentiated from the energy drinks, no? Kasi nga naman ngayon, no, kids nowadays, they call them energy drinks. When you say energy, parang that's the caption. No, I will be energized pag ininom ko to. I will perform well. No?
Yes, so I agree. So pag may energy, may caffeine, yun yung bawal, yung caffeine. Sports drinks, yung mga electrolytes, that's okay. Pero yung may caffeine, it's actually should be avoided in children.
Thank you, Dr. Baihon, for your comments and for your insights. No? We do really learn a lot coming from Dr. Baihon. Well, another question from Dr. Romel Soto. How can I encourage my kids ages 5 years old to drink water more when they are more drink when they are more into drinking milk? Is not drinking enough water will lead to having difficulty in bowel?
Actually, for yung constipation, no, you just have to drink the allotted amount for that age, no. But for to answer the question of how to encourage the child to drink water, probably you can give it with with a snack, no. Um, every time your child eats their meal, you can allow him to drink sips of water. So just introduce always frequently so that he'll get used to the taste.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Novette, no? So we really should encourage our children to love water, no?
Oo. And then in terms of kung minsan kasi yung mga this age mga toddlers, they drink parang halos milk lang sila, no? So siguro before a meal, mga 2 to 3 hours before a meal, do not give milk na. And during meal times, just offer water as beverage.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Novette. Another question from an anonymous attendee. Good morning, doctors. Thank you for this helpful webinar. In hydrating our children, is there a bearing po on the temperature of the fluids? Will it need to be cold water or warm water?
Okay. Siguro, I think, no, if it's really hot, no, the temperature of the fluid will help dissipate the heat, no. But kahit even if regular water lang, it's actually enough to uh, compensate for the dehydration that has occurred, no. But because of the heat nga, yung temperature of the fluid will help dissipate the heat of the body also. So probably our children will prefer cold water.
Oo nga, mas gusto
Oh,
talaga.
parang masarap kasi sobrang init, 'di ba? Tayo naman 'yun, gusto natin maraming ice, no? So I think the cold water or would be helpful in that aspect.
Lalo na ngayon, napakainit ng panahon. It's really summer. Okay? Thank you po, Doc. You are welcome. Dr. or Mr. Romel Soto, no? I hope Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Question, no? Another question from an anonymous attendee again. How often would the pre-participation clearance need to be repeated if needed for post-COVID patients? Let's say every 2 years or every certain number of months?
Okay. For post-COVID, it should be more frequent kasi yung regular is every 2 to 3 years, no? So for post-COVID, it would probably be more to do it annually until he regained the normal activity and level of fitness.
Okay, thank
So
you.
close monitoring with a primary care physician.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Novette, no? Kailangan talaga, asymptomatic na talaga sila. Wala na sila.
Yes, that's correct.
This is also for their own good para nothing will happen during their
Yes.
activity.
Oo. Maganda nga tong may pre-participation evaluation kasi before walang ganito, di ba? And then we hear of athletes na who have sudden cardiac death, which is very unfortunate. So this will prevent those unfortunate events and health-related injuries for our children.
Yeah, I agree with you. Before kasi they just need clearance. Punta lang sa clinic natin, may dalang papel.
Yes, oo.
Lagay lang doon,
Oo.
certify that the name of that
Oo.
patient, no? to join,
Yes.
participate. Pero ngayon, it is
Oo.
really important to undergo the pre-participation evaluation.
Yeah.
Or,
And it's also beneficial for us doctors, no? May guidelines na tayo to follow.
yes, I agree. Before kasi nga naman wala. At least now,
Yes.
guided, especially as general pediatricians, no? But it is really good na kailangan talaga natin, no? Like, kasi before then, I really don't know kasi ako, I always ask for a chest x-ray and an ECG. But now that we have a guidelines, at least we will be guided accordingly on how to do the pre-participation program.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Another question again from Dr. Rina Valencia, no? Some kids do not like pure water. Is it okay to advise to give lemon-infused water?
Well, I guess it's okay lang naman as long as it's natural naman. Kasi may mga iba na naglalagay sila ng mga herbs. As long as the child would drink it, that's okay. And it's the ingredients are natural. It's not a problem. And
Okay.
it is not, there's no sugar added to it. Yeah.
Oh, kasi nga naman, usong-uso talaga yan even at home, di ba? Or even in restaurants, no? The lemon-infused water.
Oo. Minsan preferred mo din yun eh. Kasi it's something different from the usual water that we have. So, okay din naman yun. Once in a while, you can do those a variety of presentations and yun.
Okay. We have some comments here. Yeah, from Dr. or Miss Angel Ocampo. Good morning to mga doctors. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Well, another FB question coming from Dr. Catherine De Leon, no? What criteria or parameter do we need to look at when choosing electrolyte? You've
Ito
answered.
yung kanina, oo. So,
No.
yung electrolyte containing beverages, no, make sure for children, as emphasized by Dr. Baihon, nga, na it should just be sports drink or electrolyte drink, not your energy drinks that contains caffeine. So, important for us to look at the ingredients, no. For me, I think we have to opt for yung mga natural ingredients, no, walang food colorings, walang masyadong sweeteners, yun yung mga healthy options for our children. But these sports beverages should be offered in a once in a while, no? Hindi pwedeng lagi. So it should be combined also with your water.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Novette, for that, no? And Dr. Baihan says, thank you very much for the enlightening discussion, especially the return to sports. After
Yes,
a
sir.
COVID infection, dami kong kalaro sa badminton na nagka-COVID tapos within a week from recovery, laro agad sila.
Oo nga, actually. Thank you, sir, for that comment and for sharing that experience, no? Sometimes nga yung mga kasama nating mga doctors na mag-wonder sila, bakit hindi pa ako 100%, no, when they do their sports. Pero actually, ganun talaga. Kailangan gradual, no? Makita mo dun sa 7-day interval. First 15 minutes lang, next 30 minutes. So, kahit sa bata, lalo na sa matanda, ganun din. So, tama yun, sir, na we have to gradually return to sports. And it depends on the severity kasi kung severe siya, 3 to 6 months, hindi pa pwede. No? So, hindi pwede bumalik agad. No?
Excited kasi,
Yes,
no?
oo.
After quarantine.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Novette and Doc Sarah. Very informative coming from Dr. Rina Valencia. You are very
Thank
much
you.
welcome.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay.
Rina. Thank you for attending.
Okay, unfortunately, that is our last question. Again, thank you, Dr. Novette, for the very informative lecture on fluids, no? As well as the pre-participation assessment or evaluation. I hope our participants enjoyed and learned a lot from our first Coffee and Conversations webinar this morning, as much as we enjoyed putting this webinar together. Thank you, Dr. Novette, and thank you everyone from our participants, both from Zoom and from the FB pages. For all participants, thank you for joining us this morning. For your certificate, you may scan the QR code or click the link on the chat box, and this is open only until 5 p.m. today. I will return to this slide in a while. For inquiries about our speaker, Dr. Novet Lagunsad, and other pediatricians and other specialists at the Medical City, please contact the Institute of Pediatrics with this number flashed on the screen. And just a reminder to all parents, aside from COVID-19, there are many vaccine-preventable diseases. Especially in the upcoming rainy season, please continue to observe minimum health standards and visit your pediatrician to get your children's vaccinated, to be updated. I would like to invite you to our upcoming webinars. The Medical City Center for Developmental Pediatrics is inviting everyone to the annual Children's Summit on June 17, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. titled Every Age, Every Stage, Nurturing Your Child Inside Out. The following PRC CPD units are provided for this full-day webinar. For a minimal registration of 500 pesos, you may register by scanning the QR code shown in the screen. On July 29, Saturday at 9 a.m., we are inviting you to the webinar for Coffee and Conversations titled Cough It Out, Unlocking the Mystery of Cough in Children. Learn about the cause and management of chronic cough with our experts, Dr. Emily Resurrection, our pediatric pulmonologist, and Dr. Michelle De Vera, pediatric allergologist. Register for free by scanning the QR code. Again, thank you for spending your morning with us today for IPLA's Coffee and Conversation. I leave with you the link to the certificate. The link will be open only until 5 p.m. today. See you in our next webinar. This is Dr. Sarah Christine Mendoza for Coffee and Conversation of the Medical City Institute of Pediatrics, your partner in pediatric healthcare.